Alright, for this project you're going to restore an old damaged photograph. I have provided, I think, like 9 to 10 photographs, and they're all grouped in order of difficulty. And to be honest with you, the difficulty groupings probably don't hold true for each student. Some students think the easy photos are the hardest, and other students think the hard photos are too easy, whatever. You're going to use Photoshop's restorative and retouching tools to repair these photos. And if you actually do have some old photos at home that you know are damaged or cracked or whatever, you can bring those in and scan those and use these tools to correct them if you want. Just have me kind of look at them before you scan them so that we can make sure you don't damage them further. When you hand these in, make sure you put your name on them. You need to hand in at least 3 corrected photographs to receive full credit. 1 photograph from each group. Here's an example of restoration. These are some before and after photos. Alright, so here are the available photos. Again, you have to do at least 1 photo from each group. And which photo you do is totally up to you. It's your choice. You have to make all of the necessary corrections according to me. And if you're not sure which corrections to make or which corrections I'm expecting, trust your gut first and foremost, and then come consult me if you're not sure if you've made all the corrections you need to make for the photo. Because chances are I'll point out like spots you missed or things you need to correct further. Now I'm going to go into Photoshop and I'm going to show you all of the restorative tools that you would use to restore these photos. Okay, so I've opened up one of the easy photos, and we're going to restore this photo. I'm going to walk you through all the tools you can use to restore old photos. It's a special group of tools. They're in the middle of your toolbox, and anything in here you can use to restore your photo here. First things first, let's just do some basic cleaning up here. When this image was scanned, it had a lot of extra around the sides here, so we're going to crop that away. You can crop away most of these cracks, but you're going to really close in on her. And you want to keep kind of the original dimensions of the photo, so don't crop too far in. Just click and drag. Okay, we can get rid of that watermark there, and then some of the cracks on the edge there, and then double click to commit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to clean up the rest of this stuff using the retouch tools here. Before you make any corrections though, what I would recommend highly is that you take your background layer, double click, make it a layer, and then copy it, and just keep your copy kind of locked and hidden so that you have an original to compare to in case you make an accident and can't go back in your history. Again, if you do make accidents, go back in your history, click back to a prior history state to undo any mistakes you've made. This extra copy is a kind of insurance bet against that because your memory in your computer is kind of limited by the computer, and the computers in the lab aren't too great. They don't have a lot of memory. So make sure you copy and lock that layer. The first tool that you're going to use to do retouching is the patch tool. The patch tool has a whole host of other tools in its group. Let's use the easiest one first. That's the spot heal brush tool. Or your work layer, and then you're going to want to zoom in. Okay. The way this tool works is there's a couple of settings here. You can kind of change the mode, play around with that, and you can change its size and how it behaves like you would any normal brush. So again, bracket keys make it larger. And then the way to use the tool is to just sort of find an area you want to kind of paint away. So like I got these little dust particles here. I can just click once, and what it'll do is it'll take the surrounding pixel colors and fill in that area with those pixels. So this is great for little dust marks. Sometimes you can click and hold and paint away an entire area, and it looks just fine. Use it to smooth out areas or get rid of little pock marks or anything you notice that looks a bit off. Now, it doesn't do big repairs where there isn't enough color. So like if I wanted to repair this white corner here, I probably couldn't do it with the spot heal brush tool. It's blending that white with this gray. We don't want that. So what we might want to try is the patch tool instead. Okay, so I went back in history and I undid that repair there, and now I'm going to click and hold on the spot heal brush tool to use the patch tool. The patch tool allows you to do kind of the same thing the spot heal brush tool does, except you can use an area to paint over another area. So like if I want to get rid of this big chunk here, I believe it's set to source right now, so I believe that means when you make your selection, this will act as the source. And if you hover this over here, it'll blend this with that. So we actually want to change the mode there. To do that, just Control deselect to unselect there. We're going to change it to destination mode. This is the mode I like best. We want to take this chunk and move it to our destination. So highlight an area you want to use and then move it to your destination and release, and it will automatically blend that with the surrounding area. Now obviously it will do a little bit of fuzziness on the side when it sees another color, but you can keep painting with that section to get rid of that. And we can resample with a larger selection to get rid of big abnormalities in our texture here. And I can keep clicking and dragging with that to kind of blend that in there. And again, sometimes it won't work, so we'll use other tools to kind of fix that. One tool you can use to get rid of certain abnormalities in the texture is the stamp tool. The stamp tool is your best friend. The clone stamp tool does an awful lot of cool stuff, and it's a really cool tool. It actually has been expanded and has this whole other panel to it. And to be honest with you, I don't really know how to use the panel yet, so just bear with me here. I probably won't give you any info on that. You can research it and see what it does. But the basics of the stamp tool are universal. To make a stamp, you need to set your brush size, and then you're going to hold down the Alt key to switch it to the sampling mode. Kind of like you hold down the Alt key to go to your eyedropper. This is kind of like the stamp tool's eyedropper. So we're going to sample this light gray here, okay? And then we're going to move over here, and you'll notice your brush kind of previews the texture you're working with. And the way I have it set up, it's aligned to the sample. Okay, so when I paint, my sample will stay aligned with my brush. So as you watch here, kind of watch the crosshair. Okay, see how the crosshair stays in place? What I'm doing is I'm taking the texture where the crosshair is and I'm painting that into this area over here. Okay, so if I get into the hair, obviously I'm going to paint the hair up there. We don't quite want that, so Control Z, and then we'll try again. This time we can use the unaligned version. The unaligned version, every time you click off of it, it will sample where you left off. Okay, so that can be kind of useful if you just want to sample one area of texture and put it up here. Another tool you can use, but I would only use it subtly, is the brush tool. The brush tool allows you, of course, to paint with any color you sample. So like if I want to make this really smooth, I can just sort of sample that kind of greenish gray color and then sort of paint with it very lightly to kind of smooth this area out. Okay. Now I would do this very subtly, very slowly with a low opacity, maybe even on a separate layer, but that's only because the brush tool can be kind of obvious when you use it. If you've ever seen an airbrushed supermodel, the people using Photoshop to airbrush those are using Wacom tablets and have years of understanding of how color works in Photoshop, and they're being very subtle with their adjustments. So you kind of want to stay in that realm and sort of don't be overly egregious with it. The next tool I'm going to show you how to use can be useful for smoothing out texture. It's the blur tool. The blur tool does exactly what it says. It'll blur an area. You can set the strength, and then you just sort of paint with it. And anytime there's anything with high detail, it'll start to blur it. So like my background here has a lot of crackling in it. To get rid of that grainy crackle, I can use the blur tool to kind of smooth and even out that texture if I want. This is great for areas of the face if you want it to look smooth and young again. and try not to overuse it in areas that require detail. So like the hair, you probably wouldn't use it there. In this tools family of tools here, there is the sharpen tool and the smudge tool. I wouldn't use the sharpen tool. The sharpen tool is kind of weird. It doesn't really work all that well. I mean, it works, but it just is too obvious. So I really don't like using it. The smudge tool, though, can be useful at times. You can use it to kind of extend areas or just smooth them out selectively. And you can smooth it in a direction depending on the strength. Now, my strength is at 10%. If you turn it up to 100%, get ready for some really extremely weird effects. So that just smeared that sort of flesh tone out here. Looks kind of weird, doesn't it? Last tool that I'm going to show you how to use, you should already know how to use, but I'll review it again, is the dodge and burn tool. The burn tool obviously makes areas of the image darker when you paint them. You can set it to a certain range of values, so if you want to make the shadow area darker, leave the exposure pretty high and then paint in that shadow area. If you want to make the highlights again darker, switch to the highlights, keep your exposure pretty high and just sort of paint in that area. The dodge tool does the opposite. It makes things lighter. So if I want to make my midtones lighter, I'll switch to the midtones and then just simply paint with my dodge tool. Now, the way to do this without harming the image, of course, is to go to the layer palette and then hold down the Alt key when you click a new layer button. And you're going to create a overlay layer. Okay, switch to blending mode to overlay, and then fill that overlay layer with the neutral 50% gray and click OK. And then what you want to do on that is you want to paint with black or white so that you can protect your original image. So if I paint with black at a pretty low opacity here, maybe 30% or so, I will darken the image, but it will stay on its own layer, and I can always turn that off or turn it on to see how it looks. In fact, you can actually do all of these effects on a separate layer just to protect your original image if you want. History brush tool. The way to use this tool is kind of eluded me. I understand how to use it, but I don't use it that often. It's kind of hard to use. You have to set a history state further back in your history, and then when you paint, you're essentially painting away any edits you did to your image, if that makes sense. So if I turn up my opacity to 100% here, I've set this blur way early in my image here as the history state. So if I paint over that blur, it will appear unblurred again. If I paint under that, there we go. So I painted away that sharpen, I'm painting away those adjustments there, okay? This has some value if you want to go back in history selectively and create kind of a non-linear history. But if you don't understand time in that way and you're not quite sure why you would need to alter time or your history panel in such a way like that, it really doesn't do you much good. One of the last things you can try to do is use the selection tools to kind of copy and paste parts of your photo over other parts of your photo. That would be the only way you could potentially utilize the eraser tool, really. Let's say we want to, we can't, get rid of this crack. So maybe we take some of the background up here that's nice and clean and copy and paste it down here. So to use the selection tool, I'm just going to use the lasso tool here. The lasso tool allows you to draw a selection. So I'm going to click and drag and then go kind of back to my starting point here to make a selection. I know it's a selection because you see this kind of dotted line, this moving dotted line. This is commonly referred to as the marching ants. Once you have that selection, what you can do is you can go to your move tool and then don't move it just yet, otherwise you'll cut it out. Hold down the Alt key to copy it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to copy it down here. And you're just going to hit Control deselect. Okay, so now we have some of that background from up there down here. And we can continue to use the patch tool or the stamp tool to kind of blend it in with our surroundings. Another option for you, if you go back in history here after you make your selection, is to use just a copy and paste. So you can go Control C, Control V. And what that'll do is that'll copy that little selection to its own layer. You can go to the Move tool, move it down, okay? And now you can use, something like the Eraser tool to make it blend. So if I switch to the Eraser tool, zoom in here, make my eraser a little bit smaller, maybe turn up the opacity, and if I use a kind of a soft eraser brush, I can sort of soften these edges here so that it blends nice and easily with my surroundings, okay? That might be something to consider using. Okay, so I've walked through kind of all the potential things you could use to retouch and restore photos. Remember, you have to do at least one easy, one medium, and one hard photo for a total of 3 photos for this assignment. And then you can use these tools in any way, shape, or form, so long as you restore and retouch your photo. Don't forget that color is also a part of that. Color is often the last thing I will do. I'm not going to do it right now, but just use an adjustment layer to make your image black and white and maybe fix some of the discoloration in your photo. That's all. Make sure you ask me if you have any questions.